सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। ओम सदाशिवसमारंभां शंकराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करम्। शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्। तपोभिक्षीणपापानां शान्तानां वीतरागिणां मुमुक्षूणाम् अपेक्ष्योऽयम् आत्मबोधो विधीयते। So we had completed, I think, 44th verse, and there we saw the example that was given was about the necklace on one's own neck. Atma tu satatam praptopi apraptavad avidyaya. Though the self is our own nature, but one feels that I don't know. Tannashe praptavad bhati. So when this ignorance, I don't know, is destroyed, then it appears that I have got back this nature of the self. But it was always my nature. Like the necklace on the neck was always there. I just thought I have lost it. And when I recognize it, I feel, oh, it's here. So I feel as though I have received, but it was always there. In the same way is the self. So that verse we saw is also the negation of what we call the causal body, the ignorance. The subtlest obstacle on the path of self-realization is acceptance of the notion that I am bound, I am ignorant, I don't know. So that thought is carried forward in the next shloka also, in 45. Sthanau purusha vad bhrantya krita brahmani jivata jivasya tatvike rupe tasmin drishte nivartate. Sthanau purusha vad bhrantya. When one sees a stump of a tree, one may feel that it is some person standing there. Sthanau purushavad bhrantya. The post appears as the ghost. Krita brahmani jivata. So in the same way, just like the post is appearing as the ghost, the supreme reality, Brahman, is appearing as the Jiva. But Jivasya tatvike rupe. But in its true nature, who is this Jiva? Is that Brahman only. Tasmin drishte nivartate. When this Jiva realizes my true nature is that supreme consciousness, then the notion that I am this limited individuality goes away. Like when the post is seen, the ghost disappears. The stalk, stalk of the tree or the trunk of the tree, when it is seen clearly, then as though there is a person there, so that delusion goes away. So knowledge plays that big role here. And so both these verses are about removal of this ignorance.
Namaste Swamiji. Pranam.
So the idea here is that when there is a, so example if we have to give, if there is someone who is drunk completely, now that person is drunk, has lost senses. Now the person may be at home only, but now that person is thinking, I am not at home, I have to go back home, and the person is blabbering saying, "Arey, take me home, this is not my place, I need to go there, I can't go alone, take me." Till that delusion is there, the person keeps on thinking one is not at home. The moment that person sobers down, one realizes, "Here I am already at home, there's nowhere to go." Same way it is, we are right now drunk with ignorance and desires. And we are thinking we are bound. And now we are thinking we are lost in this world. And now drunk with that ignorance and desires, one is saying, "Take me home, take me home." From where? From home only. I am sitting in my home and saying, "Take me home." In that way only. Om is our true home. That is Brahman. That is our true self. I am that pure consciousness already. But right now, because of ignorance and drunk by desire, now I am thinking I am out of it. So I have to get back. Take me home. Take me home. So that is the example given. So these two shlokas are to say that if a person just focuses back on the self, that my nature is self, this is only a role I am playing, I am not this reality, then so many things connected to that, the wrong notions, they all will get removed. So now how does that happen? That happens through the right knowledge. So the next shloka is about that. What is that knowledge that one needs? So 46 one. Tattva swarupanubhavat utpannam jnanam anjasa aham mameti cha jnanam badhate digbramadivat. So tattva swarupa anubhavat, by the experience, intuitive experience of the true nature of our self, tattva swarupa. Utpannam, when that experience happens, how that will happen? Jnana manjasa. See, now when we say experience, that's a limitation of language. Many people think that there will be some special experience I will have suddenly. What happened? Now I got realized. Some unique vision will happen, or some light or some color or some halo will come around one's face, something one thinks. Because one always thinks it's an event that will happen in time, some experience. But this is not like that. It is not an experience that was not there and now it is going to happen. When a waker wakes up, what does one realize? That I was always the waker. And of course, that example has a limitation, because in that from dream one wakes up. So there is an experience of the dream ending and then the waking state coming up. That's the limitation of the example. Here when we say Utpannam Jnanam Anjasa, it is only recognition that my nature is always that. I never became deluded. I never became ignorant. That recognition is called this experience here. Jnana Manjasa, with the right knowledge. So with the right knowledge, I see clearly. That is what is the state of realization. It is not an experience that comes and goes. So don't get carried away by the word Utpannam. Utpannam means it is created. In time it gets created. But that is not what Vedanta understands. Vedanta explains. Whatever is there in time will get destroyed in time. This is something that is beyond time. And hence, when this experience one recognizes through the right knowledge that my nature is pure consciousness, then aham mameti cha ajnanam. The notion that I am separate and these are my things and I need them for happiness, which is born of ignorance, aham mameti cha ajnanam. These three things, badhate, they will get destroyed. How? Digbramadivat, like the confusion of the directions end when somebody tells us the right direction. So suppose you are lost in a forest and now you don't know which is east, west, north, south, and completely confused. And there you meet somebody who can guide and who can say, okay, this is the north. The moment one says this is the north, all the rest of the direction, they fall into place. Why? Because in connection to the north, then I can place out south and the east and the west and all that. So in the same way, when we come to know that my nature is this pure consciousness, the moment that knowledge arises, then the confusion that I, mine, all that goes away. Straight away one realizes all this is an appearance of that one absolute truth alone. So this is to make the person understand here that we actually need this knowledge. To live happily in the world, the knowledge of the self is the most essential requirement. Without knowledge of the self, I may know other things, but I will still be attached to any of them. I will still have misery. I will still have sorrow. So how does that go? How does misery go? How does sorrow go? How does insecurity go? No matter what I do in the world, it will not go. It will only be a relief. The only way it can go is the knowledge of the self. In connection to my position, the moment I understand I am the self, my identity shifted from the finite to the infinite. Everything else disappears after that. But if I say I am only the finite and only I keep changing the roles in the finite, then all the problems associated will continue. So like that example of the direction, Dig Brahma is there. So if the moment I know the north, then I know the rest of the directions. But if I just keep assuming, or maybe that is the north, maybe that is the east, maybe that is the south, then I keep going round and round. And so here it is that this notion of I and mine, they are effects of what? Ajnanam. Aham mameti cha ajnanam. So if ajnana is removed, I and my also will go away. And that's why you see in the Gita, Bhagavan gives this knowledge of the self to Arjuna. Because that is the cause. The ignorance is the cause for all the attachments and wrong notions. Many times one wonders why in the battlefield was this knowledge of the self given, that self is immortal and unborn and undying, and the Vishwarup Darshan was shown, and so many things happen in the Gita. And Arjun finally becomes ready and he fights the war and he wins. So why all this knowledge has to be given? He could have been motivated, he is a soldier, he could have been told that you are a Kshatriya, this is your Swadharma, you fight this war. If you don't fight, these are the harmful consequences. If you fight, these are the beneficial consequences. And anyway, go beyond harm and benefit, do your duty. Over. It should have ended with that. Which many people even think that's the main objective of the Gita. So if you ask people, they will say, what is the main objective of the Gita? To make Arjun do his duty. That is not the main objective of the Gita. For that, Krishna is not required. For that, Gita is not required. To give him the knowledge of doing his duty, any of his other brothers also could have done it. Yare Arjun, fight, this is your duty now, and we depend on you only. But that is only a relief. The root cause in Arjun's confusion is not coming out of attachment. Aham and mama. See, mama is mine. So now if you say these are my people, drishtve mam swajanam Krishna. He says, I am seeing my people there. So when we diagnose the problem of Arjun, we feel that, okay, Arjun got overwhelmed because he saw his people there, he saw his grandfather, he saw his teacher. And so that mamata, that attachment is the cause. Attachment is a symptom. The cause of mama is aham, I. How I perceive myself, based on that will be my attachments. Arjun was a soldier and he was in the war for protecting righteousness to do his duty. That was his identity. But when his identity changed to a friend or a student or a grandfather or a relative, the moment the aham identity changed, mama identity also changed. So what we generally keep doing is only keep changing our identity from one role to the other. So from the identity of a soldier, Arjun came to the identity of a student or a grandson. Now Krishna could have always told Arjun, ki, Arey, you go back to your identity as a soldier and do the war. Fight. Krishna said, no, 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 that is not a solution. Why? Because again, after some time, this guy will change his identity. Because he doesn't know what is his true identity. Who am I is not known. So if you see whether it is Ramayana or whether it is Bhagavatam or whether it is Gita, any of the scriptures, the ultimate, I'm talking about Vedantic scriptures as well as the essence of bhakti will be to realize oneness with Bhagavan. In all these scriptures, the main point will be to know who am I. If I don't know who am I truly, I may know many other things, it is useless. There is no point in that. Because some point or the other, it will fall short and I will feel insecure, I will feel attached, I will feel restless, I will feel bound. That's why Atmabodha, the knowledge of the self. So if that ignorance is removed, the moment ignorance was removed, Arjuna understood that my nature is that consciousness. This is only a role I am playing. Everything falls into perspective. Think about it. The treatment that Bhagavan gave Arjuna, did Bhagavan anyway tell him that, see the problem of attachment, how attachment will cause trouble to you, and remember what all Kauravas have done to you? Nothing. He didn't tell anything about the Kauravas. He did not tell him that, you are a person who needs to take revenge, how badly they have behaved with you and how insulting they have been. Now just imagine, if you reimagine this whole situation, that instead of instead of Krishna being Krishna, suppose Krishna is a director of a Hindi movie or a serial. And now he has to guide Arjuna to fight this war. What he would have told? Full melodrama would come there. Remember Draupadi, remember that scene, how they behaved with her and how you all were helpless. And then remember what Duryodhan did to you in the forest. And then how Bhim was poisoned. Full flashback will happen. And Arjun will be shown rising with anger and, very red-faced and wanting to fight. And he will stop Krishna right there in the battlefield saying, stop it now, and picks up the arrow and starts shooting. None of that Krishna told him. Nothing about the Kauravas, nothing about the sorrows that they have gone through. Straight self-knowledge, Swadharma, Virat Roop, Bhakti. Sometimes one feels where there is this connection. So many problems we go through in life, we never think that I and mine is a problem. The problem always is out there. This brother-in-law, that mother-in-law, this boss and this government and this planets and this neighbor and that person. Always problem is out there. Very few people will say that no, I and my is a problem, number one. And the reason why this I and my is rising is because I don't know who am I. So that's why this deeper aspect has to be understood very clearly, that the entire effort of spirituality is to know who am I truly. So aham mameti cha ajnanam badhate. All these three will get negated, nullified. When tattva swarupa anubhavat. When the swarupa anubhav happens, that what is my true nature? My true nature is the essence, which is indestructible. Then all the false notions, all that goes away. So if we think Arjuna is a symbol of a dynamic man of action and he symbolizes each one of us, then in the most difficult challenge of his life, if self-knowledge is the main and ultimate solution, then in whatever problems I have, in that also self-knowledge only is the main solution. Whether I have financial problem or some emotional problem or some confusion, intellectual issue I have or some social problem, whatever I may have, they all will be connected to my identity of how I perceive myself. I have to question that perception. Is this perception even real? It is so temporary. It just comes and goes. Till I hold on to that particular identity, that problem lasts. The moment that identity I shift, that problem is no more. What we try to do is only escape from the problem. So either we try to speak it out to somebody, and nothing wrong with that, to share with anybody, if that helps me to diagnose what is the root cause of my problem. Or we try to divert our mind, or we try to drown ourselves in some whatever, alcohol or some drugs or something, and become unconscious and not think about it. But a seeker will actually inquire into what is the identity that is having the problem, and what is the source of that identity. Who am I? If I say I as a mother have a problem because of these things in my family, at a role level there is a problem, but this entity that I am calling myself as a mother, that entity has some attachment called mine. Now that may be also the cause for the trouble. And why is that entity having attachment? Because that entity doesn't know who the reality of that entity is. Who is that entity who is actually playing the role of a mother? Who am I? That is not known. So till I don't know that, my problem will keep reappearing in some or the other form. Problem-free life is not possible. But if I know who am I go beyond all problems. Then even the biggest of problems will be only one situation in life. And hence he says here that one should know this, the knowledge of the self is the ultimate cure. And the moment I get that, all the other wrong notions, they will disappear. So now having said that, he goes ahead. So earlier was said Jnana Anjasa. When this knowledge is produced instantly, and how will this knowledge be produced? We have seen earlier through the process of Samadhi. When the mind becomes completely still, contemplating on the truth, when the mind is absorbed in that state of Samadhi, not in a state of blank, in the state of Samadhi, which is the nature of Brahman, nature of self. There the person comes to realize, I am this. That knowledge destroys the notion that I am Mr. So-and-so, the notion that I am bound. Now having said that, the next verse, 47th. Samyak vijnanavan yogi swatmanyevakhilam jagat ekam cha sarvamatmanam ikshate Gyana Chakshusha. So Samyak Vijnanavan Yogi, one who has this right vision, is a yogi. See, this is such a nice definition of yogi. It is not said here that a yogi is one who is twisting the body or holding the breath, or pranayam one is doing. That also is one aspect of yoga, there is no doubt. But who is a yogi? Samyak Vijnanavan, one who has the right vision. About what? About the self. Samyak Vijnanavan Yogi. Swatmanyeva Akhilam Jagat. That this entire universe is in me. I am that consciousness in which the universe rises, stays and falls. Yuj actually means to unite. And yogi means one who unites with one's own self and has realized one's true nature. Samyak Vijnanavan Yogi Swatmanyeva Akhilam Jagat. Ekam cha sarvam atmanam. So there is all this plurality that one is seeing is only one absolute truth. There is no difference. So this vision of oneness, one who has, that the Jiva, Jagat and Ishvara, these three are appearance of the one absolute truth. There is nothing else except that. Ikshate Gyana Chakshusha. So that person has this eye of wisdom. With that eye of wisdom, this person has the vision of oneness and sees the whole universe as one, and everything as an appearance of one pure consciousness, which is one's own self. So that's the basic meaning of this shloka. Samyak Vijnanavan Yogi Swatmanyevakhilam Jagat Ekam cha Sarvam Atmanam Ikshate Gyana Chakshusha. Now this Gyana Chakshu is a very nice expression. See, one is the eye of understanding, where we can understand something which is subtle. Okay, so let us see more simpler explanation. So one is the physical eye. So with the physical eye, I see what is there in front of me. So the objects become clear to me with the physical eyes. But can everything be seen only with physical eyes? Not possible. There are many things which cannot be seen with physical eyes. They need subtler aspects. So then there is a eye, or what we say, there is a emotional aspect in our personality, where love, etc., we see, we experience through the feeling. We may not be able to, the expression of love can happen through certain actions also, no doubt. But many times it is through the feeling we understand that what is the feeling behind this. Like a mother may scold a child. So physically, externally, it appears as though it is a scolding. But when we see the intention, when we see the feeling behind it, then it is a feeling of love. So it's a subtler perception that is required for it. One cannot see only the physical and say, "Your mummy is very, I don't like her because she scolded me." But she scolded for your good. So there the subtler perception is required. So there is a feeling. How to understand the feeling, that what is the feeling behind this action, the motive behind this action, that requires subtler perception. Subtler than that feeling is the eye of understanding, where some subtle concepts I have to understand. So whether it is in maths or chemistry or medicine or engineering or any such thing, where I have to understand subtle concepts, economics, arts, whatever it is, where the understanding has to be more refined, much more deeper. So one has to figure that out. Intricacies are there of whatever, suppose law. So then language of law, Bapre, one simple thing to say, where in such technical language one will put it, and after reading that one will want to ask the lawyer, Acha, what do they want to say? You please explain. Because in such complicated technical terms it will be written there, and we may feel this is over described, but the lawyer will say this is still incomplete. There are still loopholes in this. We have to plug all the loopholes. Arey Baba. So that is more subtler. So one needs the eye of understanding, the eye of knowledge to understand what is written there. Some poet writes a poetry. Many times the poet writes it, but other people don't understand. And definitely that happens with art. Modern art especially. Something will be painted and put up there. One will keep wondering, what does this artist want to tell us? Only some circles are there, some triangle is there, some color is there. Now what? Can't understand. Subtler perception is required. So from physical to emotional to intellectual, the perception becomes subtler. When one comes to the spiritual, it is the most subtlest. Why? Body, mind, intellect, none of that is available. The eye of intuition is the subtlest eye. EYE, I'm saying, eye. The eye of intuition is the subtlest eye because it transcends body, mind, intellect. Perception through body, mind, intellect itself we saw has gradations. I am not talking about the intuition that we feel at emotional level. I think today this person is going to call me, or I think today I am going to win this particular bet, or I think today this thing is going to happen. I'm not talking about that, or what people say gut feeling and all that. Not that intuition. I am talking about the intuitive understanding that I am pure consciousness. That how does that arise? Only when these three get aligned properly. Body, mind, intellect have to be aligned properly. Senses must be withdrawn. Mind must be pure. Intellect must be sharp and subtle. If these four happen, then I can transcend body, mind, intellect in meditation. And with the eye of intuition, I realize here I am Brahman. And that eye of intuition is very strange. It destroys all duality. The meditator, the meditated, and the process of meditation, everything gone. The seer, the seen, seeing, gone. So that's why it is the most subtlest. And it is there in everybody. When we say this is the place where, Shivji has the third eye, this is the focal point. As one focuses the mind here, if the mind is ready, if the intellect is sharp, if the senses are well controlled, that person transcends all attachment to body, mind, intellect. Gone. Then one gets that vision of oneness. Here, there is only one consciousness. That alone is all this. So that is called Gyana Chakshush. In the 15th chapter, those of you who know 15th chapter of the Gita, it comes, no? Vimudha nanu pashyanti jnana chakshushaha. Vimudha. So now Gurudev, when he used to define all, he used to give commentary on this verse, he would say, supreme idiots don't recognize this. Because mudha means idiot. Vimudha means supreme idiot. Meaning completely identified with the body and thinks of oneself only as the body. He says, Bhagavan is very clearly saying in the Gita, such supreme idiots cannot realize this truth. Vimudha nanu pashyanti. Who will realize that? Pashyanti Gyana Chakshusha. Those who go beyond body identification, they will understand this and their eye of intuition is awakened. And that's why this knowledge is a open secret. It is available to everybody. Books are written on it, translations are there, commentaries are there, talks are there, everything is there. But still, if the mind is not ready, if body identification is not gone, it is still a top secret only. They're all words, nothing else but words. No realization will happen. And if somebody takes even one instruction of the scripture properly, completely imbibes it and lives that well, this Jnana Chakshu will open. So it depends on how I live my life, with what level of simplicity, austerity I live to remove my body identification. It is not about whether one lives in a hut or whether one lives in a palace. In a hut, one may be living with full body identification. In a palace, one may be living with no body identification. It is dependent on what is the level of one's detachment with the body and what is the level of one's clarity that I am not this entity at all. How much halla gulla is made for this entity, which is a fictitious entity, which is a false entity. It does not exist at all from the highest standpoint. But right now it is appearing so real because attachment to the body. Where does this entity go? When there is dream state or deep sleep state or samadhi avastha, the whole entity only disappears. But still, when we come back to this waking state, again we come back to that same entity, and so we think this is real. The fact of the matter actually is we never come back to the same entity. Forget waking, going to dream or deep sleep and coming back to waking. In waking state itself, what I think of myself at this moment, is that the same in the next minute? Think about it. It is not. I have already changed. But there is a notion of continuity. So I think I am this. I don't know who said it. Some great author only, somebody said it. I don't remember who said it. But he said, no, you cannot step into the same river twice. You cannot step into the same river twice, because the moment you have stepped in, the river is a continuous flow. How will you step in the same river? Already the water in which you have stepped, that water is gone. Is not there. So every minute this body is changing, every minute my thoughts are changing, every minute my emotions are changing. So the entity only is changing every minute. But I still feel I am Mr. So and so, because I am holding on to that notion. That's all. That I am this. The fact is that it is continuously changing. It is not the same. It is only a false notion. So if false notion makes me feel I am this Mr. So and so, and it is this false notion which makes me feel I am attached to this person, because I have built that attachment over a period of time. And so it is a false notion only which makes me feel it is very difficult to drop attachment, you know. It is not difficult. Just don't renew. If you have a prepaid connection, what happens? If you don't recharge, gone, over, no? Same way. Don't recharge the attachment. It will die automatically. We are only recharging and renewing our subscription to it full time by going on thinking about it. If I just stop thinking about it, it will die a natural death, because that's the nature of life. It is continuously flowing. You know, very strange it is. People like to say flow with the full flow, go with the flow. Very, people love that expression. Swamiji, I don't have any plans. I just flow with the flow. Very good. You can flow with the flow as far as plans are concerned, but are you flowing with the flow in relationships? No, there I am attached. I'm on the banks. I have put a tent and I'm staying there, camping there for a long time now. Stuck to this person, to that object, to this house, to that wealth, to this clothes, something or the other, I'm stuck. You see now Ganga Ji is so pure right now that they say that the water of Ganga Ji has now come to the level where one can just drink. Just take that water and drink. Why? Because human being has stopped polluting. Fresh waters are coming from Gomukh. They will anyway take away all the pollutants into the ocean, and now the Ganga Ji is pure. So clean. That's the nature of life. If we stop polluting our mind with attachments and with dependencies and all kinds of wrong notions that we have, the flow of life will purify us automatically. Problem is we are not going with the flow and we are adding our pollution into it. We just need to stop. How to stop? Stop selfishness. Start loving, start giving, start forgiving. Find the joy within. The more I find the joy within, automatically external dependencies will go. So as we said, no, develop the subtler perception from physical to emotional to intellectual to spiritual. I need to become subtler and subtler in my life. Actually, life is meant for that. Did I become subtler and subtler in my life or not? As I'm growing, my perception should become subtler and my vision should become one. As I grow in life, if I still have vision of division, that is a tragedy. Life is actually meant to move towards a vision of oneness, not vision of division. You know that shloka which is very famous is this. Ayam nija parova iti ganana laghu chetasam. This is mine, that is yours. This psychological division that one creates, no, it is a thinking of small minds. Udara charita nam tu vasudhaiva kutumbakam. Those who have a broad mind and vision, for them the whole earth is one family. If human beings live with that vision of whole creation is one family, how much more harmony will be there in relationships as well as in the world, as well as in nature and environment. We have destroyed the world because of our insistence and our thinking that the world is meant for me. The world is not meant for me. We can be wiped out. In fact, that is a good solution. If earth has to become happy, just remove human being, finish off human being. That's it. The whole earth will revive automatically. 60 days of lockdown, you see what all has happened. Beautiful things have happened. Imagine human being just wiped out. Coronavirus wiped out 7 million people. Gone. Earth will become blissful. It is human being who is spoiling it all. Why? Because the Gyana Chakshush is not there. The vision of oneness is not there. So this shloka is telling us that Ikshate Gyana Chakshusha. So that person is a yogi who has this vision of oneness. Gyana Chakshu means that. And through that vision of oneness, one lives in unconditional love, no insecurity, no attachments. That's a beautiful way to live. People are scared of this because they think that, oh God, if I give up attachment, then how will I love people? Because one has confused many things. Attachment is thought about as love and detachment is thought about as disinterest. All these are wrong notions. The moment all these go, what happens? Only vision of oneness. Where there is oneness, there is love. Why does a mother feel so much of love for the child? Because the child and the mother, there is no sense of difference. The mother feels that I am the child. The child is me in another form. Why does a person who loves the country feel so proud and so happy thinking about the country? Because one feels oneness with that. Where there is oneness, there will be love. Where there is love, there will be values. And where there are values, there will be duties. It will happen automatically. If vision of oneness is not there, then there is no love. There is division and there is attachment. Where there is division and attachment, we cannot follow values properly. We will follow what is convenient to us. And when we follow only what is convenient to us, we will not do what is my duty. What I feel like doing, only that I will do. Now you see Arjuna's situation, same thing happened or not? Vision of oneness is gone. So there is attachment. So now he sees Bhishma and Drona are mine. I don't want to fight them. Others are not mine. Now that delusion brought about so much confusion that his values he is not able to follow of a Kshatriya, and the duty he cannot do. He says, I better to go away into the forest and I can beg there, but I don't want to kill my people. So that's why you see the way in which this whole thing flows. From vision of oneness comes love, from love comes duties, from love comes values, and from there come the duties. So spirituality, if it gives us the vision of oneness, it automatically gives us the other three: love, values, and duties. Simple. So there is no question of a person becoming indifferent. There is no question of a person becoming careless and person becoming very aloof. And there is no question of running away from duties. It will bring me closer to all this. So many great masters, they didn't have any duty towards the world. Swami Chinmaya, he didn't have to come down to share the knowledge. Why did he come down? Why did Swami Shivananji create the Divine Life Society? He was a successful doctor in Malaysia. Happily, when he went from India to Malaysia, they asked him That person there asked him, will you manage one hospital? He said, I have the capability of managing 3 also. Very successful doctor he was. And even when he was a doctor, he was every day getting up at 4 o'clock and he was doing his sadhana and meditation and japa and all that. And so selflessly he was treating people that if in Malaya, that time it was called Malaya. So in that Malaya, if people were poor, he will not take fees, he will give them money for the treatment. That was his life. Such a selfless person he was. And you see how the life changes. One day, one sannyasi was there who was sick. So he was treating that sadhu and sannyasi. Now that sannyasi didn't have any money to give him. So when the sannyasi got cured, he gave him one book. He said, this is what I have. You please take this book. That one book that he gave him, reading that one book, Shivananji said, this is done. I need to renounce the world. He came back to India, gave up his medical practice, everything, went to the Rishikesh, went to the mountains, and he started doing tapasya there. He built a small hut for himself in Rishikesh and he was doing tapasya. And slowly, slowly, he started treating the people there also. Very touching how his life is, you know. And at that time, the leprosy was at such a peak. One of the incidents that really transformed this, Balan, who was the atheist, who was Gurudev in his Purvashram, Chinmayananji in his Purvashram, was Balan. Balan went there as a journalist to expose the sadhus. But one incident really transformed him was that there was a person who was a leper and suffering on the road. Nobody was ready to even allow him to sit in their rickshaw to take him to the hospital. And Balan was trying to figure out how to help him. In the meanwhile, what he found, Swami Shivananji has lifted him on his back and took him straight away to the Anand Kutir, which is the place where he had started the medical shop, a medical dispensary. Balan was stunned. He said, what kind of a sadhu is this? He doesn't bother about his own body also. What level of selflessness is this? Those things really touched him. It is not the oratory or the logical knowledge or the understanding of Vedanta alone. So these great masters, they operate out of oneness. Where is the question of running away from life or not doing duty or anything? They operate out of 100% selflessness, doing duty towards people, which is not even their duty. They could be sitting quietly in the mountains, absorbed in samadhi. But the feeling is there that this knowledge must go to all. Everybody should experience this bliss. That is called a yogi. And what all Shivananji has done, he is one of the yogis in this country who is what should we say? He is not the due credit that should be given to such a great yogi is not given by this country. How many great people has that one person produced? You just think about it. Swami Satyanandji, Bihar School of Yoga, is a disciple of Swami Shivananji. Swami Chinmayananji, disciple of Swami Shivananji. Swami Sachidananda Saraswati, disciple of Swami Shivananji. Swami Vishnu Devananda, disciple of Swami Shivananji. There are 10 such disciples of Swami Shivananji. All of them are world-renowned masters who have established global institutions. And such a simple, childlike personality, purest in his heart. You know, he will not bother about voice or anything. Suppose you listen to his bhajans and all that. It's not that he had some great melodious voice, but from his voice, the bhav, the bhakti, amazing. How he served the people, how he wrote books. He started a printing press, he started a medical dispensary, so many things he did selflessly. And best part is nobody told him to do any of this. It came from within, he did it. That is called a Samyak Vijnanavan Yogi. One who sees vision of oneness and one who serves people only with that attitude that let people be happy. That is actually social service. Real social service is where there is no ego at all, absolutely no ego, zero. And nobody has to tell that person. So this vision of oneness is what one should strive. Now, here we are talking about vision of oneness from the standpoint of the absolute Brahman. You can adapt this vision of oneness even at a simpler level. You see, Mahabharata and Ramayana both happened because what happened? The vision of oneness is not there in a family. No? The same Kuru family, one of them thinks, the Kauravas, they think we are Kauravas and they are Pandavas. So Mamakaha Pandavas Chaiva. Now there is a split. Where is vision of oneness? Gone. So then there will be fight. Whether it's a family, whether it is a company, whether it is a country, whether it is a world, wherever we want harmony to happen, we have to introduce this vision of oneness. It is only with vision of oneness that love can arise, and only when love arises, one can give up the ego. It is not possible to give up the ego otherwise. So the real solution for peace and happiness in the world is when we are able to introduce vision of oneness. Now people, if they follow this principle of spirituality, eventually they will come to the absolute vision of oneness. If I can't have vision of oneness within my family or within my company or a country, where will I have absolute vision of oneness from Brahman standpoint? It is not possible. You see, every great master who has realized the truth would have passed through this stage of feeling oneness with the whole universe. Otherwise, one cannot come to Brahma Avastha at all, because the ego is very strong. So contemplation will not happen. And that vision of oneness is so powerful and so deep. To the extent I am able to let go of my ego, to that extent the vision of oneness will be strong. What allows us, what does not allow me to forgive, what does not allow me to let go, what does not allow me to give is only my ego. And that ego prevents me from the vision of oneness. Ego thrives on division, self thrives on oneness. If I promote more and more division within myself and outside, finished. No peace and happiness. Forget peace and happiness there. So, Samyak Vijnanavan Yogi Ikshate Gyana Chakshusha. That is called a Samyak Vijnanavan Yogi, who will see with this vision of oneness. Even in individual life, we have to see in the personality itself, there are divisions. Now, body is separate, prana is separate, mind is separate, intellect is separate. Until I don't align all of them, I can't transcend. So whether it is at personality or family or company or country or even the whole world, vision of oneness has to come. And I should ask myself, where all do I have vision of division? And why is that division? Why am I encouraging division? And invariably the answer will be, it is because of this person, it is because of that thing, it is not because of me. If it is because of the opposite person, it is the opposite person who must have the vision of division, not I. The opposite person is responsible for their vision. I am giving the excuse of the opposite person for my vision being a vision of division. See, the epics teach us that no, Bhagwan Ram, when Bharat comes to call him back to Ayodhya, so I was saying that vision of oneness, the moment we say that the opposite person is the cause for my vision of division, we are putting the ball in the opposite person's court. In Ramayana, we see when Bharat ji is coming to tell Bhagwan Ram, you please come back. Whole Ayodhya wants you, I don't want the kingdom, you come back. There Bhagwan Ram tells him, no, we have to follow in totality what father has said to Kaikeyi, and only then his promise will be fulfilled. So I have to be in forest for 14 years and you have to rule. you cannot exchange places, nor can I come back there. All those options are removed. But if you see that description in Valmiki Ramayana, before, so when Bharat comes to meet, as well as when Bharat is returning, at both the times, the first thing that Ram inquires is, how is Mother Kaikeyi? Are you treating her well? And at the end, so he tells Bharat at least 3 times that don't behave badly with Kaikeyi. Don't hold her responsible. Be well with her. Treat her with due respect. Now you think about it. Kaikeyi is the reason for Bhagwan Ram to go into the forest, but Bhagwan Ram is not having any sense of dvesha towards Kaikeyi. Kauravas have done what not to the Pandavas. But what Pandavas have done? They were ready to adjust, right? They were saying, we don't want war, just give us 5 villages, that is also enough. So why? Because it is a question of me purifying my mind. It is not a question of opposite person at all. Opposite person may behave the way they want to behave, that is their karma. And that is their thinking, and it is their motive. I don't have to be affected by that, and I don't have to act out of vision of division because of them. Because if that is true, there is no way that I will attain vision of oneness. If one person changes the attitude, somebody else will come who doesn't have the right attitude. My whole life will go with that only. Somebody or the other will be the cause of my sorrow. So if at all I think that, Arey Swamiji, if this person goes out of my life, realization will be next minute. It's all delusion. No realization will happen next minute till I don't cleanse my mind. And if I cleanse my mind, that's about it. Nothing I have to do outside. Simply we go on blaming people, and they are responsible for my sorrow, and they are responsible for this and that, and then we escape. It's a very easy, convenient excuse for us to escape from ourselves. And from the responsibility that I have to cleanse my mind, one happily escapes from that. Just blaming somebody else. The more one understands this clearly, the more one will say that it is better to live out of vision of oneness for one's own good. Now, what if they don't have vision of oneness? Why are you worried about them? Your mind is more happy, more important to you, or there? The moment my mind has a vision of oneness and I act out of love, even if that person doesn't reciprocate properly, at least I have done my job. My mind is clean and pure. Na? Why should I bother about other person? So this is called a yogi, who keeps oneself integrated all the time, who doesn't blame anything outside and justify the vision of psychological division. So for today, I will stop here, and anything you want to ask, you want to share, you are welcome.
Swamiji, Hari Om.
Hari Om.
You said that, attachment is not good. But where children are concerned, spouse is concerned, family is concerned, isn't there a very thin line between attachment and duty, responsibility?
No, there is actually not a thin line. If I see very clearly, attachment prevents me from doing my duty. Love makes me do my duty.
Yeah.
Like attachment made Arjuna want to run. When he had the vision of oneness and love, then he went ahead and did his duty. Though it is unpleasant to kill Bhishma, he did it. So if something is preventing me, it is my attachment actually. And that's why I said our notions of attachment, they have to go. So the equation in our head is attachment is equal to love.
Yeah.
And detachment is equal to disinterest. Those both those equations are wrong.
Nice. Yeah.
So attachment and love, they are not same. Love and detachment, they go together. Attachment and division go together. So the more I develop the detachment, more I'm able to love. Because detachment is from my insistence and my expectation.
Nicely explained, Swamiji.
Yeah.
Also what happens, Swamiji, like you said, when you have a oneness, a wider vision for the whole world, sometimes you find you're doing something for a greater cause, but then what happens, you find a little resistance in your own space. Yeah. So, and that they could have consequences. For example, like they say, Sanjay Dutt, he was father of the nation. He did a lot of good work and social. Not Sanjay, Sunil Dutt. And his own son felt neglected, and he went down the wrong path. I mean, I don't know. Sometimes that's an extreme case, but you do feel in your own space there could be a little bit of service at the cost of something. Could that be possible?
See so one can always say that it appears like that. When people are working for the higher cause, then the family feels neglected. And yes, it is a responsibility of the individual to balance out both. There is no question about that. But also it is a responsibility of the son, the individual.
Correct.
That one can speak, one can communicate, one can do many things. There is no justification of going on the wrong path. In fact, many times one does what we call as one does it conveniently. When it comes to asserting power, is one not using the name of the father to assert power?
Correct.
And to take the benefits? And when it comes to blaming, one is not taking responsibility ki I am responsible for the wrong path that I went on because my thinking was clouded and I did not clear my thinking, and now I conveniently blame the opposite person ki because of this I went on the wrong path. If you see like that, then every single child must be on the wrong path or not. Because there are so many parents who are struggling. Forget doing greater work for the whole world or the country. They are struggling to make the ends meet. How many children are there who are growing up without the support of both the parents? Some are affluent enough to afford a maid and servants, etc. to take care. Some don't have. Many are in such poor conditions that the child lives alone almost the whole day.
Yeah.
Now, if we say this, then every child must land up in the same position there.
Yeah.
So those are reasons that somebody just gives. Yeah. And as I said, one should definitely try and balance one's duties. There's no doubt about it. But ultimate responsibility is of that individual.
Yeah, correct.
Somebody else was saying something.
Yeah, Swamiji, you said the ego thrives on division and something thrives on oneness. I didn't get that one word. Self.
From vision of self, everything is appearance of one self alone. No? So the more I operate out of oneness, the more closer I am to my nature, which is the self.
Swami Shivanand, where was he after Malaysia? Where was his ashram, or where was he in India?
Rishikesh.
Oh, okay.
Rishikesh, at Divine Life Society. Even today it is there.
Okay. And when did he leave his body?
Somewhere in the 60s, I think.
Okay.
They celebrated his Diamond Jubilee also, 75 years.
Okay.
And then after a few years, I think he took Samadhi.
Okay.
His Samadhi is there in Rishikesh, in Divine Life Society, the Samadhi is there.
Nice.
If you go to Rishikesh, you should definitely visit. It's a very humble place. But definitely go to Divine Life Society. And above Divine Life Society, if you go a little more, Vasishta Gufa is there.
Oh.
Yeah, Arundhati and Vasishta. Vasishta Gufa is there up. Very powerful place. One should go in there and sit and meditate.
Wow.
And very beautiful scene also there, because Gangaji is flowing on the banks. One can just be sitting there for quite a long time and very quiet. Nobody will come there. It's not a glamorous place or anything.
Yeah.
But it's a very beautiful one.
We should all go with you sometime.
Yeah.
Sometime, yeah.
Is there any significance of the Vasishta Gufa? Very specific.
See, Vasishta Maharshi He is one of the Sapta Rishis. Very great person. Guru of Bhagavan Ram himself. And he lived in that gufa. The vibration there is unbelievable.
Yeah. His power.
His power. So sitting there and meditating for a few minutes also, the mind goes into very deep states.
Good vibrations.
Yeah.
Thank you, Swami.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.